Would you be willing to grab me Pop-Tarts real quick? You take the boy.
Take the boy.
Let's say I'm trying out my other microphone on this unit, so I'm hoping it works out pretty good. Yeah? You just got lots to say right now, don't you?
It's a very talkative night for the boy.
Yeah. Welcome back to Dads Meet World, your weekly deep dive into that classic show, Boy Meets World. I am one of your two dads, main host this week, Tyler, and joining me is...
Dad number 2. I played lots of video games when I was a kid, Brett.
Yes, as did I.
It's Mario.
Yeah. So wherever Brett ends up putting in that audio, we're just talking about the Mario movie, and we quite enjoyed it, and it gives you that feel of the '90s, again, and give us more '90s feels. We're talking about Boy Meets World again.
That's right. Yeah. So. So we both saw the Mario movie this weekend, took the families out to see it, and
I do want to ask you, what'd you think of Mario?
Oh, Mario, we enjoyed it a lot, actually. The kids loved it immensely, and I had a really good time myself.
Yeah. I've never seen Grayson react that way to anything ever. Like, he was just so excited the whole time. Like, literally, I watched him as he's bouncing in the seat, and because he's so forward, the seat's just going back and forth. So I'm like holding down the seat so he's not just like, he's not gonna break it. So, because I have sat in a seat before in a movie theater where it's broken, and it's like, this is not going to work because every time you move, it makes a sound. So,
Asher was sitting right beside Kelly, and so he was between us two and the other two, and he was recognizing which Mario game certain elements were from. He's like, "That's Mario Kart. That's Super Smash Bros."
I will admit, the first time in the theater, I got to a point that I just closed my eyes. And all of a sudden, I felt Sarah push me like, "Are you sleeping?" I'm like, No, I'm not sleeping.
I'm just resting my eyes.
I definitely passed out for 5 minutes.
I think Abby's favorite part was when Mario got the cat suit.
Yeah, Grayson enjoyed that part too. He thought that was so silly. It was good. We really enjoyed it. Honestly, we collectively just every now and then we'll start going peachy, 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 peachy.
I thought that was an inspired character arc for Bowser.
Yeah, Jack Black putting in some of his best work by far.
Yeah, I love the choice of Jack Black as Bowser. That was fun.
The only one that was really questionable was Seth Rogen, but hey, you throw in another big name, he's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
he didn't detract from the movie.
I mean, there's only so much you can do with Donkey Kong. I think he did all right with it.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing. Is Donkey Kong is Donkey Kong. It's not like he does a whole lot. So
yeah. Two dad thumbs up right here. What else have you been getting into this week, Tyler?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to start. The biggest thing I'll talk about is I'm always amazed to see. I don't like the word can't. I never like to say it myself because can't is just a word we put to say that something is hard. And instead of saying, hey, this is challenging, I'm having a hard time with this, my anxiety's raising, I'm stressed about this, we just go, no, I can't do this. And it's a mental thing that we have to push through and overcome. And I had a youth event where I had some obstacles set up. We were doing a floor is lava night. And I had a section that I told the youth, you have to go through this section if you want to win. And I had a girl that got to the section and looked at me and said, I cannot do this, but I want to win. And And I said, well, if you want to win, you have to do this. To make the long story short, too late. This girl completed the thing, and I was just so proud of her. And then she ended up winning the night. So it was a really good first Flores Lava night. I was really happy about that. But more importantly, this past Friday, I showed a bunch of teenagers my favorite movie, and that movie is Clue, the movie. And I warned them because I know this generation. I said, listen, there's going to be things in this movie that was made in the 80s about the 50s that, it may not sit well with you, but remember, it's just a movie. So just hearing, teenagers laugh at things that I've been laughing at since I was, a toddler just brings joy to my heart. So nice to know that there's some jokes, some movies that are just really enjoyable and classic,
Awesome. So they didn't try to cancel the movie?
No, they didn't. Actually, several of them said, I'm really glad we're watching this right now.
Cool. I always love when the younger generations discover older stuff that they fall in love with. You ever going to try to show them Goonies?
Goonies has a lot more questionable things in it that I don't know if these guys are ready for that.
Yeah, that one's a little bit harsher edges.
Yeah, a lot more harsher edges. But yeah, I got no problem showing some old classic TV shit or movies. That's for sure.
It fits in with the theme. Goonies never say die.
Yeah, I'd rather show them Cobra Kai personally. What are you up to, Brett? What's new in the house? The hizzle.
A little bit up and down. Wow. I was supposed to join my brother and some of his friends at the home opener for the Cleveland Guardians last Friday, and I had to miss it for illness. So that was sad. But we're recording this a couple days after Easter. Easter weekend was a good weekend for us. Very fun weekend. We had my parents came over. All of my nieces and nephews were over. A couple of my siblings came over as well. We had, let's see, do some quick math here. 3, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 or so plastic eggs in our backyard. There's still 4 of them back there. I'm going to find them with the lawnmower in a few days. And so yeah, that was a lot of fun. Food, good weather, getting to sit out in the backyard, playing some giant Jenga, and got to take a good group photo with my parents and all their grandchildren for the first time in the longest time. And we have one of those web swings that one too many of the cousins got on, and the rope snapped. I think the rope took too much stress through the winter. And our youngest, Asher, unfortunately took the brunt of the fall, and he landed face first in the dirt. And
poor Asher.
He looks like he went a few rounds in a Cobra Kai dojo. And so when he went to school this morning,
nice.
They were off for a long weekend. When he went to school this morning, I was telling him, when your teacher asks you what happened, you should tell her you should just see the other guy.
Mm-hmm. Classic.
He just gave me this look. He's like, no. But yeah, good weekend. Had its ups and downs, but yeah, overall, good weekend.
Nice. We were walking today. Our church did a Easter egg hunt, and so my son and I were walking because they still had a day off today, so we're walking around, and all of a sudden he goes, "Hey!" and he runs over by a tree and grabs an egg and goes, "Look, Daddy, another egg." You go, "Well, I guess it's yours now."
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good joys all around.
That's right. So enough about Easter eggs and lava. Let's talk about teenagers making out in closets.
Yeah, making out in closets. What teenagers do. But first, peachy, 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 peach.
Oh, yeah. We're going to look at the 9th episode of season 2 this week. Fear Strikes Out. Now, in this episode, Cory and Sean go to a makeout party. But when Cory cannot get through 7 minutes in heaven with Topanga, he becomes the laughingstock of the school. This episode was written by Susan Estelle Jansen, directed by David Traynor, originally aired on November 18th, 1994, and currently has a 7.7 rating on IMDb.
Real quick, I feel like we should pull up how long they're talking in the closet, because from the way it looks, as if their conversation on the whole is like maybe a minute and a half or so. So you're telling me that they're just in the closet for like 5 minutes, not saying a word to one another?
I can definitely pull that up in the background here, and I can scrub through and see. Their conversation, their time in the closet is 2 minutes and 20 seconds exactly.
Okay. So, I mean, still, we're 4 minutes. 4 minutes and 40 seconds of them just being still inside the closet. Now, I mean, unless Topanga tried to talk to him or was hoping he would talk and just finally, like, she just went crazy and decided talking. But, you know, being somewhere for like 10 seconds of dead silence is awkward in and of itself.
Yeah. But throw it, and granted it is TV time, but I'm sure we'll get to that when we get to that part of the episode.
TV time. I agree. In a flash, it's
as
3
we like
weeks
to
from
say
now.
Here on Dads Meet World, episode's got an episode.
We start off in the cafeteria with a question. 7 minutes in heaven? And our friend Sean tries to describe to Cory of what this is and what the deal is. Do you have any of this clipped? Or
I didn't clip their conversation, but
I'm gonna like this game.
I love Cory's slip-ups.
So we're learning that they're going to go to a makeout party and they're going to play 7 minutes in heaven. Apparently that's the goal of this whole ordeal. Now, Brett, I don't know about you, but I've been to parties in the past, and I wasn't aware of any sort of potential making out or anything like that until, like, you're actually at said party, you know? So, like, just the idea of, yeah, everyone knows that there's a 7th grade makeout party that's going to go down just strikes me as odd.
Yeah, at least in my part of the world growing up, it's not necessarily something that would have been publicized. Now, granted, I did not grow up in the more progressive parts of the country. I grew up in the Midwest. It was a more conservative part of the country. But, promoting and advertising that, hey, here's a makeout party is not something we would have seen. And even at the parties we went to, I mean, it's not something that was going to be high on the radar. Hey, let's all go take turns locking ourselves in the closet and everyone else outside watches. I kind of feel like we had a little bit different focus.
Yeah, I mean, this is just part of that episode as the episode, in my opinion. Like, we got to explain the rules to the audience. We got to explain why they're going this way. And we have to justify Eric being in this episode. And kind of Sean, too, really.
I was a little bit surprised. This is like the first time we see Eric willingly acknowledging Cory in the cafeteria. And engaging in conversation.
Point, he's really ignored him and not talked to him at all. In this episode, he is full blown. I mean, granted, most of his time is messing with his brother, but he's acknowledging his presence.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and he's talking to him. He's engaging with him. And I mean, he's walking behind him, talking to him.
Nobody's talking to you.
He's getting on Cory's nerves.
Yeah. Well, you know, I will say that my brother and I've said before, he's older than me. So when I was a freshman and he was a senior, do I have any idea if we had the same lunch together? No. And you don't know why? because we ignored each other. I got no idea what classes he took, how close we may have been to one another at any given time. You know why? We never overlapped, and that's just the way things were. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I saw my brother one time during my 9th grade year through the first day to the last day outside of we're leaving now.
Yeah.
But yeah, explaining the rules. Eric is starting what I'm calling a psychological warfare on his brother because apparently he's decided that he needs to mess with him so that way he knows that he is scum and he's going to mess up.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what I did clip, though. I did clip Mr. Feeney and Mr. Turner's conversation.
Yes, that's the one I'm so concerned about. Hit us with that clip.
George.
What?
Who that?
Don't look.
Now,
Mr. Turner, we are not in high school. Well, yes, we are, but we're teachers, you fool.
teach me about her.
That's Miss Tompkins. She replaced Edwina Muncie in our social studies department, mercifully.
Did you hire her, George?
Yes, I did.
Atta boy.
Take a shower, son.
You said miss. You didn't say Ms. or Mrs. That was an is. As an is must be my lucky day.
She is indeed single. She is also highly intelligent.
That's okay.
Mr. Turner, I frown upon faculty becoming involved with faculty.
Then it's not a policy. It's just a facial expression.
Go ahead, skip blithely into the minefield of extracurricular romance.
Thanks. I'm just going over to say hi. Welcome her to our school. How's my hair?
Long.
I would watch a show of just featuring Mr. Feeney and Mr. Turner.
You know, you have to wonder why they didn't take advantage of Mr. Turner and that younger vibe of, you know, just a bunch of adults hanging out every now and then going into the school.
They tried. I know they tried in season 3 when they brought Eli on. They wanted to try and capture that Friends dynamic a little bit. But they just, I don't know, the network just wanted them to try too many different things. But here, I love what they capture here with Mr. Feeney and Mr. Turner. It's this this very, I mean, we've seen several times this season this clash of old school educator versus young, hip, groovy, new school education model, and we've seen the sparks fly between the two. Yeah, earring boy. And we've seen the sparks fly. We've seen the butt heads. We've seen a little bit of a friendship develop. But here we get to see the interpersonal workings between the two. And we get to see them have a little fun together and not have a wager on the table or anything. And, you know, sure, Mr. Feeney's got a little bit of the administrator here where he's a little concerned about the policy of inter-office romance, so to say. But it's just a lot of fun. It's a great B story.
It is. It's one of those nice distractions of showing of, hey, teachers aren't always worried about educating kids. They have lives, and those lives sometimes just play out inside the school.
Yeah. And there is so much great 90s cheese from Anthony Tyler Quinn here. As it is must be my lucky day.
I will report to you that our teacher extraordinaire correspondent, I did ask, hey, are teachers allowed to date other teachers? And her response was, yep, we have married teachers too.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we go any further, I want to bring up Miss Tompkins here. This is Catherine Cat Tompkins, played by Darlene Vogel. This is the first of 4 appearances she'll make on Boy Meets World. She has a total of 41 acting credits. Started out on the soap opera One Life to Live. She appeared in Back to the Future Part 2 and a few peripheral items like a video game and a few other things that were associated with that. Showed up on Full House, Northern Exposure, CSI, House, Castle, The Ranch, and a few other things.
Wow, she only is in 4 episodes?
Yes.
She's just another one of those characters that I feel like is in so much more of this show.
Mm-hmm. Well, she is, yeah. But yeah, just 4 episodes.
Oh, interesting. Who's she play on The Ranch?
I'm not sure. I would have to look that up again.
No, it's not a big deal. I just all those made sense, and also got to The Ranch. I'm like, The Ranch.
From the
anywho.
clip that was auto playing on her IMDb page, she looked like she was a waitress or a bartender.
Makes sense. Anywho, just great interaction between Feeney and Mr. Turner. I will also say that I loved the immediate George, what?
Yes.
Like, just Turner coming in with the energy he has, and Feeney just being like, why? We're on our lunch break.
Who dat?
And also, I will say, I'm just going to say for the record, even grown men can end up being slightly horn dogs. So it's nice to see that. I notice a lot of times that Turner will have a parallel story to either Sean or Cory of, well, this is what it's like in high school. And then it's like, oh, this is also what it's like in the adult world. And how it's not that different. One is just more, quote unquote, refined. And the other one is, we are barbarians. We have these emotions and feelings, and we don't know what to do with them.
Yep. One just got a little more experience in knowing what to do with those hormones.
They know what to do with their hands.
Yes, which is a great segue. Cory finally goes to ask what all this tick, tick, tick time bomb is about.
I'm just concerned you're not prepared for the makeout party tonight.
I know how to kiss.
You think it's that simple? I mean, what happens if she has braces? What happens if your nose is hit? I mean, what if a hanger hooks you like a largemouth bass? Do you even know what to do with your hands?
No! Is that important?
Look, some things you can learn, but some things it's already too late.
I've got time.
No, you don't. You ate the beanie weenie casserole, right? Tick, tick.
Oh my gosh. Why is that bad?
Core, deep down, does the thought of kissing somebody make you tense up?
Absolutely not.
Okay, then.
All right. I wouldn't say tense up. I would say I become very alert.
Okay. So you'll be there at the makeout party, very alert. Your intestines full of beanie weenie. You lean in for a kiss. And you fly across the room.
Great visual.
Yes. I have to say, I'll say just real quick. I'm not trying to give advice on kissing, but if you're kissing somebody with braces and your mouth gets hooked like a bass, you done something wrong.
If you're in a closet kissing someone, yes, and I agree with the same preface. Not that we're giving advice here on 7 Minutes in Heaven, but if you're kissing someone in a closet and you get hooked by a hanger, you really have done something wrong.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know how else to say it. We do not want to give advice. Okay. Here's what I'm going to say, and we may have to get rid of this. I don't know. But you need to be comfortable with the person you're with. And if you feel that you feel comfortable enough with that person to kiss said person, just, don't be weird. Does that make sense? And just take your time. Like, don't try to force anything. Don't try to make it more than it needs to be. Just allow things to be natural. And you may say, it doesn't feel natural. Well, no, it doesn't. But maybe it's because you're in front of the wrong person. And don't just try to make out with someone just because you think that's what you're supposed to do. Because unfortunately for Cory, it feels like I'm supposed to make out, so that's what I'm here to do. Instead of just going in with, oh, I'm going in with my friend. This friend and I talk, so let's go in and let's talk and figure out where both of us are. Because I'd argue later on in the episode, that's the reason they kiss each other, not because of the environment, but because they actually had an open and honest conversation. And, you know, honestly, that's the way they've kissed before, is open and honest conversation, and then it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But anywho, I don't know what of that I really want to be released, but just the thing, the dad advice I can give is don't do anything just because you feel you're supposed to, because that's what you're supposed to do.
And the dad advice I'll give is no kissing till you're married.
Right, because that's possible, Brett.
I had a roommate who did that.
And I'm sure that first kiss at the church was very awkward.
Well, no, that was their plan, but they altered it a little bit.
No. Okay. I'm not advocating for people to be making out left and right. I just know what happens when two people fall in love.
Well, this episode got a little awkward really quick.
Well, it's a weird and awkward conversation, Brett, and we don't have our wives here to make awkward, so we're just the ones dealing with the awkward.
All right, so let's stare awkward in the face and dive into the party, shall we?
Yes, let's get to the party before we both say something we shouldn't. So we walk into the party. Cory's kind of nervous. Sean's all, hey, buddy, I'm here with you. Don't worry about it. Just relax.
I find it interesting that everything Eric told Cory that he's not going to be ready for, it shows up right there as Cory walks in. He notices, he's looking for, he sees braces, he sees a wool sweater, and
okay, hold on. Cory really has a thing about wool. This is the third time it's popped up, and my goodness, he is worried, and he has a thing about wool.
He really does. And then, Sean wants him to carbo load, and he sees bean dip. And, oh, man, he turns to run, and Topanga shows up.
Boy, what a great party, huh? I was great. I was in the closet 14 minutes. I'm gonna go home and ice my lips.
Cory?
Eric was right. Too much can go wrong.
Cory, chill. You're gonna be fine. And you know why? Because right up until the second you go into that closet, I'm right here with you, no matter what. Because it's Cory and Sean. Sean and Cory. Sean and Melanie. See ya.
Ah, yes. The classic, I'm with you for no matter what, buddy. Hey, there's a girl over here. Goodbye.
See ya. And, Sean had every good intention, but then Sean's name got called. And there's a girl.
Yep. His hands are tied. What can he do?
There's nothing. And we'll give the John. This is John, by the way. Apparently, this is his party because he's the one calling the names. We'll give him a shout out. This is John, played by Benny Luciano. At this point, his last name he's credited as Benny Grant. I'm guessing he changed his last name. Or Grant was just a name to be a little more accepted in Hollywood at that time. Very possible. I
was going to say there is that time period, and probably a little bit still of you need to hide your heritage.
Yes, younger, good-looking people. There was a time in Hollywood that, as Tyler mentioned, it was a lot easier to get work if you were less exotic, shall we say.
Yeah, there's a documentary called Showbiz Kids, and a lot of them talk about that, is that they had to change their name because it was either too ethnic, too potentially, Latino, any of those things, even if they weren't, and they just had a name that kind of sounded different, it was something that they shouldn't do. So,
yep. Well, this is the only time he shows up on Boy Meets World. 21 total acting credits. He showed up on shows like Night Court. He hit Family Matters, Step by Step, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Did a lot of voice acting on Aladdin, Tailspin, Bobby's World, the Fantastic Four animated series that ran in the 90s, Extreme Ghostbusters, and a few others.
Lost Galaxy is a good season of Power Rangers.
I stopped watching before they got to Lost Galaxy, so.
You don't count.
Hey, I was there at the beginning. I stopped watching once they went into space, so.
Well, again, that's the best season. But also, to be clear, I'm a grown man that doesn't mind watching Power Rangers, so.
I didn't say I minded. I just said that's where I stopped watching. Anyway, 7 minutes goes by, apparently. What happens, Tyler?
Well, Sean walks out. Apparently, he did some interesting work in there because he's got a different shirt on.
Hey, he's got that giggling, half asleep look that he gets periodically now.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, Sean was very busy in there.
Cory, the closet is your friend.
Sure, Sean, if you say so.
He's trying his best to make Cory comfortable. You got to give him that.
Yeah. I don't know.
This, for me, this, I'm not, I'll get a soapbox in a minute here, but the idea of changing your shirt in the closet, it's almost a bridge too far. It just seems, granted, this was the style of many layers, and it was easy to have Sean go in one layer of shirt and come out in a completely different one. But it just seems like a very odd joke to play that the guy would go in and come out in a different shirt. Visual cue that something happened in there, but wow, Sean changed a button-down shirt that he was wearing on top of another shirt. Seems like a cheap, lazy joke is what I'll call it.
Well, and it makes you wonder, did less actually happen in there than what they want you to believe?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that they make it seem like Sean just has this way with girls and is amazing and blah, blah, blah. But maybe Sean was actually more scared than what he wanted to admit to. And maybe the girl was willing to. He's like, ooh, change your shirt because I'll make it really seem like something happened more than just a few pecks or whatever. Like, it's just, there's just always this part of the show that as we're watching it now as adults, that I'm like, you know, I know they want to portray things in a certain way, but maybe everybody's just lying about what they are good at and what they're not good at. And yeah, there's parts that Sean is quite good at when it comes to getting the ladies, but you know, maybe less actually occurs than what they want you to think potentially occurs.
It is possible.
Because again, everybody in high school, middle school are lost and confused and are just trying to figure things out, including the popular people.
Sometimes, especially the popular people.
A lot of the popular people. Can't Buy Me Love. Give that a watch.
Ah, yes. So what happens next, Tyler?
Well, what happens next is the thing that everybody knows is going to happen next, and that's Cory and Topanga ends up in the closet, because who else is he going to end up in the closet with?
I never would have expected that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I will say this is the last episode that we'll have Topanga in for a little bit here, but Cory and Topanga sure have been interacting with each other a lot, including this episode.
Yes, and I clipped their conversation here, so let's listen in.
You don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
I want to do what everyone else is doing.
So you're just doing this so you won't be different.
I'm just trying to survive this.
Oh.
No, it's not you, Topanga. It's me. I just can't perform under all this pressure.
It's okay, relax. This happens to lots of guys.
How do you know?
Well, you know, girls talk.
Oh, man. Listen, when you talk to girls, this did not happen to me. Nothing happened. I mean, something happened, but whatever was supposed to happen did.
Cory, you want to just talk?
Could we?
Now, I give a lot of credit to Topanga as a character for having the maturity to sense that Cory is really not comfortable and offering to just sit and talk and not care what's going on. And knowing that even in that moment where Cory is just running off at the mouth and he just wants to get through it and survive, and not realizing that he's really stepped all over her feelings in that moment, she takes it in stride.
Well, you could argue that she's the one that holds the emotional maturity between the two of them.
Oh, totally.
I know, go figure. But
Yeah.
it's really true as we've said before, Topanga is very mature and is very much aware of what she wants, the things she's interested in, and one of those things happens to be Cory, but she's very much waiting for Cory to realize that's what he wants. Mm-hmm. And it's still just another sign of, yes, they could make out here. They have kissed each other before, but Cory clearly is not with it all right now. And he is in his head. And so she takes the approach of, well, if he's not going to move, I will talk to him and find out what's happening because I care enough about him to do so.
Yep. And I know this is TV, but this is a pretty sizable closet, don't you think?
It's a very large closet. This is like walk-in level closet.
This is like walk in and dance around closet.
Yeah.
But, Cory and Topanga...
Actually, no, scratch that. That's bigger than my walk-in closet.
This is bigger than all the closets in my house put together. But, they make their plans. They talk about what they could do, smile a lot, change his shirt, get stupid sleepy look. Cory innocently tells Topanga she could change her shirt too, and then realizes what it sounds like. And then she twists the knife, telling him that he's a nice. And we get a little peek into Cory's psyche here.
Guys don't want to be nice. We want to be, tough and good with appliances and good kissers.
It seems to be Cory's interpretation of being a guy for the last season or so. It's kind of always how he's always viewed what being a guy is.
Well, it's not that out there to say that's how he views his dad. Mm-hmm. We've seen in the Matthews household when something breaks, Alan fixes it. Mm-hmm. When there's a problem with one of the devices, Alan works on it, gets frustrated, but he eventually figures it out.
Yep.
And he sees his parents getting romantic. So clearly his mom must be happy. So his dad must be doing something right. So
Dad, it's not even
it's
dark
not
yet.
out there to say this is how he sees his dad, but he doesn't also see the other parts of it, of when he is emotional with his wife and when he's sad with his wife and all the other parts that make their relationship work, of their communication.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I agree totally.
I can't believe you didn't think I could cheat on you. That hurts.
And yet, it's at this point that I got to get on my soapbox a little bit.
Get on it.
What happens next, where Topanga is, she's telling Cory that there's only one way to get good at kissing, and that's to practice. I really feel like at this point, if the shoe were on the other foot, we'd be having a discussion about Cory pushing his own agenda on Topanga. Because Cory is once again expressing that he is clearly not ready. And yet Topanga seems to be pushing to, he's making a comment about practicing on his arm for an hour every night. And yet the situation, Topanga is clearly in the driver's seat and clearly pushing for him to actually practice with her in that moment, despite his protestations that he's not ready yet. Granted, 3 episodes ago, less than a month, Boy Meets World time, he grabbed her in his room and planted a big wet one on her, and she called him an animal. But a little bit of mixed signals there. But in this moment, if we were looking at it and the shoe were on the other foot, and Topanga were saying she's not ready, and Cory was the one that was insisting, we'd be having an entirely different conversation. And so this is my soapbox. This is not something that I am comfortable with in that moment to be seeing. As much as I admire the character that Topanga is written to have up to this point, I'm not happy in this moment, and I'm not comfortable with the characterization in this moment. That even though she is, as you put it, she knows what she wants, and she wants him, and she's just waiting for him. I feel like this is taking that driver's wheel too early and trying to be too firm too soon.
Yep. Well, I think that, not to put the blame fully on the writers and Michael Jacobs, but there always is that element of, you want the cool girl, the girl that will pursue you, make the effort towards you, blah, blah, blah. And so it feels like it's just playing into that fantasy of, Topanga being more that girl for Cory. But no, I agree with you. Like, in my opinion, they have already lost the battle if they've waited, 6 minutes and 40 seconds to get to this point.
Oh, yeah.
Like, now again, it's TV time, but their conversation is not that long. So unless they're only in there for 2 minutes to maybe 3 minutes, and then they open the door, because, well, we know that it's been 7 minutes, but you don't know it's been 7 minutes. That type of bullcrap. Pardon my language.
Sorry, good looking
but
people.
It's just thank you. It's just that thing in TV where the whole goal is just to get to the joke. Get to the joke, get to the conflict. Episode's got an episode. We got to get this thing moving.
We've only got 22 minutes.
Only got 22 minutes. We got to get into the problem. Problem of the day.
And I understand the conceit, and I'm okay with the conceit, and I'm okay with it. I don't like the choice creatively.
No, I don't either.
It just doesn't sit well with me, with where the character has been up to this moment and where she'll go. And I don't like the message it sends in the moment either, especially with the message of the episode as a whole. It just doesn't sit well with me.
No, it doesn't. That's why, I don't know. It also just feels like they missed the mark on that as well, of who this character really is. And it feels like potentially her expectations were something. It wasn't met, so she's going to take it into her own hands. Which unfortunately leads to the embarrassment of Cory sitting there looking like a duck and the door opening.
Lips puckered, door opens, and everyone sees, and he tries to mess up his Brillo head.
Yeah. So anywho, everybody sees, everybody starts to giggle. We find Cory back at home, and Amy comes in and goes, "Tell me all about it. What happened?
Did you kiss anyone?"
Oh, and
man.
Alan's all, "Amy, please, if you want grandchildren someday, leave the boy alone. You, me.
Later. Details.
Let's talk later." Yeah, details. Which, okay, Brett, I'm going to ask you. You got teenagers. Would you ever ask your children, or would your wife ever ask them questions like, "Tell us what happened at the makeout party"?
At the makeout party, no. But without potentially embarrassing my children, yes, there has been a first kiss, and yes, Kelly got excited.
Of course she did.
Not necessarily to Amy's level of excitement, but it's not unrealistic. It's a little amplified for TV, but I was not necessarily to Alan's level of "you, me, later, details." But I mean, there's some conversation there.
No. Well, I mean, okay, first of all, I totally see Kelly being super excited about getting those type of details, and mostly your children sharing with her what they're comfortable with, and also you being stoic of, oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
I will say we learned of the first kiss a lot sooner than we learned of the new girlfriend, so.
Interesting. I mean, there's just a point where you stop telling parents stuff, is my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember being like, hey, my parents are tired of me saying I have a new girlfriend. I'm just not going to tell them or introduce another girlfriend. But anywho, Eric decides to talk to him, and
I did clip this one, yes.
nice. Give me that clip.
So, Studley, what happened? Tell me.
You got a minute?
Yeah.
You won't need it.
Nothing?
Less than.
So, were you the only guy at the party who didn't make out?
Well, Alvin had a rousing asthma attack and had to leave early. But other than him, the cheese stood alone.
Cor, I want to say that in this, the darkest hour of your youth, I'm trying very hard not to laugh. Nope, can't do it.
Oh, such a comforting big brother.
Hey, you big brothers suck.
We can, but we can be really good too.
Yeah, I've not seen any justification for Eric being a good big brother so far, so.
Yeah. We'll have to get some sort of celebratory, I don't know, some sort of celebration for when we see Eric be that great big brother.
Well, I know for one, whenever he's not being a good one.
He did stand up to Harley Kiner.
He did stand up to Harley Kiner. You're right. You're right.
Yes.
He had about 5 seconds of being a big brother.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they're in the same room. They're talking about stuff. And it's not like he hasn't been interested in his life this day. He just took an opportunity instead of supporting Cory to just mess with him. So that is a big brother thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they would do this with Morgan, by the way.
No. He does seem to be a much more invested big brother with Morgan at times.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, yeah, what can you do? It is a good joke. I will give them that.
It really is.
Eric kind of just enjoying Cory's misery.
And it's very
It's
true to
funny.
life. Very true to life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we get to go to school, and Cory is the amazing lipless.
Yeah, it's a weird nickname that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, apparently if you can't make out in the closet, you have no lips. You know?
Yeah. Again, I will say, just as I'm thinking about this, when they open the door for Sean and his girl, they're not making out. They're just standing there.
Yes, but Sean.
I'm sure that's because of the whole acting situation.
Yes.
You know, they're just standing behind the door. But like, how many people are actually going in there making out with someone? Like, it seems like, I'm just going to go on the record and say, I think more people had moments like Cory and Topanga, and just these girls just agree to lie for them, so that way none of the guys' egos were bruised.
Very possible. Cory might have had a better opportunity if it wasn't Topanga in there.
Yeah. And of course, many people are making fun of him, and Sean's trying to tell him just deny the whole thing.
Because
It's not what you did. It's what they can pin on you.
hello, Sean's relatives.
Deny it. And Cory goes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And then he turns around and sees Topanga.
But Cory's different because he is a really nice boy.
That's the last thing Cory wants to hear. And the look of sheer horror on his face as they fade out is just, he's shattered.
Mm-hmm. Just because he didn't kiss me doesn't mean he's some kind of freak.
Any boy can crawl into a closet with you and make out, or kiss you, but Cory's different. He's a really nice boy.
He's a really nice boy. I mean, in fairness, that is one of the last things you want someone to describe you.
Oh, in 7th grade, that's the last thing you want to be described as.
Uh-huh. And then Harley comes in because Harley wants to give some supportive words as an older student body member.
I clipped Harley's poetic in his poetic interlude here.
There's an inspirational thought I would like to share with you. I cried because I had no shoes until I met a boy who had no lips.
That's a good one, Ollie. That's a great one. I'll be laughing at that one for years and years. I'm gonna be telling my grandkids about it like 60 years from now. Unless I don't have grandkids, and then I guess I'll have to tell some strange kids in a park, and the cops will come and say, "Hey, you in the raincoat." Shut up. Okay. Look, Cory's obviously depressed, so why don't you just leave him alone? Over here.
Why do you even care about nothings like us?
Because you 7th graders are my little ant farm. I watch you work and play and run through your tiny tunnels. And when I hear that one of my little ants is getting his legs ripped off, well, I can't miss that.
And here I thought my life had no meaning.
Glad we could brighten your day.
Okay. Can I just say that Joey the Rat is one of the best, just, he takes something just in such weird directions that you just sit there and you go, where are you going?
In the span of 8 seconds, he goes from enjoying Harley's poetic thought to being an old childless guy in a raincoat in a park.
Yeah.
That the cops have to tell to stop talking to kids.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just Joey has a very active imagination.
Joey needs Ritalin.
Yeah, probably.
And maybe some tranquilizers.
Probably. You know, to add to our theory that Joey is actually a son of a pastor, there's a chance that, his father has said things like this to him before of, you keep this up and no woman is ever going to want to marry you, and then you'll have no grandkids, and then who are you going to tell your stories to? You're just going to be some old man in a trench coat in the hall, in the park, that the cops have to come and say, stop talking to kids.
Maybe.
All right, it's canon. It's canon to our podcast. Joey's
a
officially
preacher's kid.
pastor's kid.
He's a PK.
Yep. I like it.
All right. And the 7th graders are Harley's little ant farm.
Yeah. Isn't that okay, that's an interesting metaphor for Harley and how he views the 7th graders.
And it fits so perfectly.
It does.
I mean,
so well.
I never had an ant farm, but I imagine that's exactly what. I mean, you just sit and watch them build and live their lives. And if you're a particularly sadistic person, you would, play God with them and you would shake their little habitat. And if you notice that there's a fight going on or there's one that's getting picked on, how are you not going to watch? I mean, Harley is. They're his ants.
And it's that thing of, we talk about Harley being kind of a shark.
Mm-hmm.
That when he smells blood in the water, that's when he attacks. When you're at your kind of weakest, or you show a sign of weakness, I guess is the only way to put it. That's when he comes in and just makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, at no point have we physically seen Harley get physical with anybody, but definitely, emotional torture is his big thing.
Yep.
I love that we go back to Ms. Tompkins.
Yes. Trying to get the skinny on Mr. Turner from Mr. Feeney. I didn't clip any of this, but
that's all right. This is an amazing conversation that you need to see for yourself. And essentially, Miss Tompkins is trying to figure out, is Jonathan Turner a nice guy? Is he dangerous? Who is he?
Is he a bad boy?
And Feeney believes that he's saying things that's going to make her, not be interested in, but every time he opens his mouth,
He plays right into her
just
hand.
becomes more interesting. And I like it.
He always wears his
he always
helmet
wears
when
his
he
helmet.
wears his motorcycle.
Yeah. Oh, is that his heart out there? No,
It's mine.
it's mine.
Well, you've been very helpful to me.
Believe me, it was unintentional.
Oh, yes. And then we go home, and I clipped this little interplay here for Cory in the kitchen.
I'm never going back to school again, okay? I've made up my mind. I don't want to discuss it.
All right. So Noah had his paste cup, and he reached over and took your paste cup?
And he ate it.
And Mrs. Brookholder wouldn't give you another paste cup?
No, she's a witch.
Sweetheart, I think in the future...
It's paste. My entire high school career crashed and burned today, and you would rather talk about paste.
Would you like to discuss it now?
I choked at a makeout party, okay? Eric told me I'd choke. He warned me I'd choke. But like an idiot, I went to the party anyway.
Oh, Cory, your first parties with girls are always a little awkward and...
Awkward? Mom, this wasn't awkward. Losing your gym shorts while climbing the rope. That is awkward. And burns. This was beyond humiliation. Way beyond. This was agoubois.
Agoubois?
It was so bad I had to invent a word for it. Eric said I'd choke. But did I listen? No.
Aside from agoubois, the key word in all of this seems to be Eric.
Oh, so you noticed that too.
Agoubois is one of my fondest, most prominent memories of early Boy Meets World.
I can see that.
Cory expresses himself pretty clearly there. It's straight, no dancing around it, straight ahead. I choked at the makeout party. Eric told me I would, and it was so awkward. I had to make up a new word for it. Agoubois.
Yeah, and I like how initially he comes in, well, this is how I feel about this. And they go, okay, back to the thing we were talking about.
Just let him come to you. I kudos on the parenting. He makes this big flashy statement, and okay, he said he doesn't want to talk about it. Clearly he does, but he said he doesn't want to. Let him come to me.
Yep. I love their parenting sometimes.
Oh yeah.
It's just like they're trying to be a supporter. Like, well, these things are going to be awkward. Well, Eric said this, and Eric said this, and clearly I should have listened. Like, key word besides agoubois is Eric.
Oh yeah.
Agoubois.
Agoubois?
So Eric and Alan and Amy end up talking, and they're like, hey, Cory seemed to be a little disruptive or disturbed. Do you know anything about that? Oh, well, what would I know about that? And Alan goes, well, you're not in trouble or anything. Just tell us, what happened. He goes, oh, I just kind of messed with him and told him that everything was going to go wrong.
I was just playing with his head.
You bought that? Yeah. Got a little in his head. He goes, oh, man, you're in such trouble. But you said I wasn't gonna.
I was just playing with your head.
Sit down. Now, Alan's playing with Eric's head, it skirts the line of lying to him, but I'm okay with it. It falls into that poetic justice form of punishment and consequences for Eric, because Eric has waged such a psychological battle on Cory that he's running around saying things like
Agoubois.
And he's laughing at it. He's put his brother into such a tizzy that he's messed up. I'm perfectly okay with Alan looking at Eric and saying, you're not going to be in trouble, knowing full well that he just told his son a lie to get him to come clean. Because Eric is fully living in his own lie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it skirts that line of lying, but at the same time, I'm okay with it because he needs to get at what's underneath there or he's not going to get Eric to come clean.
Well, and the other part about this, too, is he needs to help Eric understand of what he did was wrong.
Exactly.
And so he did tell a white lie to get to the point of you caused your brother to be this way. You did this. He was fine before, and he would have figured things out just like you, but you got involved, and you know, it's essentially, it's like those old school little toppers, you know, you just spin them around and you just watch them just go, and then eventually they fall. Like that is Cory, and he's officially fallen and now just kind of rolling, hoping to get back up eventually. And I just love it. They go, well, I think till Cory dates, you shouldn't be able to date either.
Yep.
I'm too cute to stay home.
But, you know, again, it's very fair punishment.
Oh, totally fits the crime. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't want to give a full pass to everything that Amy and Alan really do this episode, but honestly, their parenting is spot on this episode. Like, they're supportive of Cory. They try to help him. And ultimately, they realize, oh, it's our other child that is the problem. We get to the cafeteria where Eric is trying to convince Cory that he needs to try to go on dates again. Cory's like, I don't think I'm going to do that. He goes, well, if you don't date, it's like I don't date.
If you're home on a Friday night, it's like I'm home on a Friday night. It's not like you are.
Yeah. He describes that it's like taking the oh gosh, I can't talk.
Training wheels.
Training wheels off your bike. You know, you gotta get back on after you fall. Apparently, Cory lost 6 baby teeth and scraped half of his face off.
Yeah, because
interesting.
He needed the training wheels on a little bit longer. He wasn't quite ready.
You know, if you fall and make that much damage, probably. Now, I will say, when I got my training wheels off, I did go to the ER that night because we were up by the neighbors, and you know this, but good looking people. My house, like, we had like a slight hill to our neighborhood. Like, it wasn't dramatic, but it was just enough that if you're new to being on a bike, you feel it immediately because you pick up speed way too quickly. And so we're only 2 houses down, and I start going, and I accidentally go into the road, and the moment I hit the road, I completely I pancaked, essentially, and got a nice giant scrape on my chin, so they had to, I think they stapled it? No. They taped it. That's what they did. They taped it. So yeah, fun time all around, losing your training wheels. But Eric is describing, hey, you know, you got to fall on your face. It's fine. And I'll take you to the perfect place for you to go on a date. Yes. He goes, well, no one's talking to me besides Sean and Topanga. And he goes, take Sean.
No, Topanga. You
dog.
Animal.
Oh, you animal. That's right. You animal.
Yes. So, ooh. So, where is this place that's just so unromantic that you can take a date to that there is no pressure at all to make out?
Nursing home.
That would be a very unromantic date.
I mean, that's a lot less romantic than this place.
Scrabble with some senior citizens.
I'm going to throw this out there. I think I think Eric purposely took him to a place that could be romantic and just made Cory think, again, just like his dad did, tell him a slight white lie to help him.
I think Eric is very, very sly on this one. I think he was very crafty.
Yeah. It's almost like he's also learning from his father.
Almost. But this is clearly a redressed Chubby's, but I'll buy it.
Oh my gosh, so much of a redressed Chubby's. You walk down and you mean like, are every single eating establishment in a basement? You're like, that's the same exact banister. The same banister.
Now, I have not spent much time in Philadelphia at all. I don't know that I've ever actually been into the city of Philly. I don't spend much time on the East Coast, but if we've got any good-looking people in Philly,
you live in Ohio. You're not that far off of the East Coast and that side of Philly.
I know
it's not that far.
I spent a lot of time in Maryland and Indiana and Pennsylvania, of course. I've been out to the West Coast a few times.
You live right beside us,
but yeah, I mean, I haven't really been out to Philly, but
all right.
Good-looking people, if we've got any of you that live in Philly, let us know. Are there a lot of eating establishments that take up residence at the basement level, just below street level? I'm curious. I have a friend who lives in Philly. I'm going to see him in a couple months. I'm going to ask him too.
I'm just going to be honest. I think this is truly a TV is TVing because I swear there's always eating establishments under places like apartment buildings and whatnot. It's just, I can't help but think it's just a thing.
I kind of hope that Philly is unique and they have a lot of that. But I'm going to ask my friend who lives out there. So
I will say that we do have one establishment that used to be a public library, and so you walk up some stairs and you're at like a nicer area. You go downstairs and you're in like a bar. So potentially, maybe that's what it's like. It's not necessarily like a giant building, but it's just, hey, there's a restaurant above, restaurant below, and they're connected but not the same.
The upstairs of Chubby's is actually black coat and tie, or black tie and coat required.
Right.
Anyway,
but anywho, we go to
the
nice slick version of Chubby's.
Yes.
Realize that Cory can't say cappuccino.
They've got no.
And Topanga gives her own little coffee order.
Clearly, you have knowledge of other worlds.
In fairness, it does. The first time you look at a coffee menu,
it's
you're like,
overwhelming the first time.
What is this? Just what am I looking at?
My first time looking at a coffee menu board, when I was willing to actually order off of one, I had no clue what I was looking at.
Well, I think I'm going to say the first time I actually saw one was when we were at the Pittsburgh Project. And so I was just like, you have bottles of Coke. That's what I'll have. But in college, we had a place called Biff Cat, which is right across the street from main campus. It's actually a professor who owns it. The first time I was really trying to understand this sucker, and I still went with hot chocolate because I was like, I'm not really into coffee, so I'll just go with this and be happy. I do love that you have knowledge of other worlds.
Yeah, clearly. But we finally get to see Frankie's poetry.
Yes.
Poem of the fierce and bloodthirsty samurai warrior. Cherry trees are blooming. On the third evening, the last flower dies and falls. Thank you.
And okay, as tough as Harley Kiner is, he is there supporting his friend.
He is.
All right, you got that out of your system? Let's go.
But he's there.
He is there.
He wished to remain anonymous, but he's there.
And I love how supportive Joey the Rat is. He's very supportive. He thought it was deep and beautiful, and
smack someone on the head to make sure they liked it.
I'm gonna say it. Joey may just be one of the best friends in this whole show.
He very well may.
So essentially, Cory and Topanga start getting into a conversation about what happened in the closet, and I like this very frank conversation they have, and essentially of Cory saying, gosh, you have no idea how hard it is of like, should I go in for the kiss? Should I not go in for the kiss? What type of kiss should I do? Blah, blah, blah. And Topanga's like, well, I'm waiting for you to come and kiss me. So do you think that's easy? And I think it's just, this is a great conversation that should have happened beforehand. And it's a good conversation in general about of what are expectations when you're in those situations, and are you willing to talk those things out? And I never want to put mine and my wife's relationship on a pedestal or anything like that, because I don't think we have this life figured out perfectly. I really don't. But anytime in our relationship, especially when it comes to those more intimate things, we have a lot of discussion about those things of what are we actually comfortable with, and what are the things that, help bring us closer together. And understanding that it's not just about these physical things together. It's about what emotions come along with it. Mentally, what can we handle, and what do we think is okay for us to do on that spiritual level as well. So I think that I'm really happy they're having this conversation, but knowing the type of friends they are, they should have already had this conversation, especially since Topanga's already kissed him at least once. Cory kissed her a few weeks, maybe a month or two ago. So there's no reason why these two haven't talked about this yet, other than the fact, and again, and the good people at home can quote us, episode has to episode.
In stereo. Yeah, I agree with completely. It's a conversation that they need to have. Realistically, it's one that they should have had somewhere between Who's Afraid of Cory Wolf and Here, because I mean, real world, if you're kissing a girl like he did on Halloween night, there's more than just she's my girl, she's my friend, she's my girly friend. I mean, there's more than that. Good looking people. You can call me old fashioned or stodgy or whatever you want to call me. I'm not a big firm believer in the whole friends with benefits, or I just want to go kiss whoever I want, however you want to phrase it.
That's shocking.
I know, shocking. I'm 40. So what? If you, if you're in 7th grade and you're grabbing someone with that much emotion and kissing them like that and howling afterwards, it's more than just you're my friend. That's a conversation that should have happened by this point. I agree completely. But it's good that it has happened now.
Yeah, but it's this weird zone they put these two in, because they keep giving these romantic moments, yet at no point after this are they having conversations about going steady or, what do they call each other, since they have now kissed and I'm guessing made out a couple of times. I don't know. This show gets kind of wishy-washy about their relationship and what that all looks like, and how long they're together, how long they're not together, and how long they're boyfriend, girlfriends, how long they're not, all that jazz.
Yeah,
so
I want to sit down and look at the production codes at some point here and see, because I know ABC would air these out of order sometimes, and sometimes sitting down with the production code can see if maybe they were a little bit better in the writing process, to see if they line up a little bit more in sync. But I'm curious there.
Well, I mean, I will say that Cory and Topanga look younger 2 episodes ago than they do right now. So I don't know if just when they ended up, producing it compared to when they actually aired it, but there is a difference in the first so many episodes compared to what they're doing now, I guess is what I was going to say. So who knows? I mean, we've had a lot of Topanga so far this season, and after this episode, we're going to have no Topanga for a while, but we do get into some really good classic Boy Meets World episodes that you can't have with Topanga there.
Very true.
As much as we love her.
Very true. Very true.
Yes. But a gentleman pops up and starts somehow having a very sexual Nick Cut style experience.
Yes, and this
metaphor.
This gentleman, this poet, this sensual poet is Donovan, played by David Grieco. His first and only time we'll ever see him on Boy Meets World. Only has 7 acting credits. And this was his first acting, at least his first credited acting gig in Hollywood. His biggest other appearance in Hollywood was he showed up twice on Monk. And he has not showed up on camera since 2013.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So, talks about nibbling for a little bit.
Nibble.
And it does. Okay, I will say it doesn't take long for multiple couples to start making out the moment he starts doing his thing. Maybe it's just well known that there's a poet who gets up there, and when he does, that's the cue for everyone to start making out.
Yeah, he seems like the regular. I'm thinking this may be, Eric might know this is like, Donovan probably comes in like once a week. He comes in on like a Friday night. And Friday night is like beatnik makeout night. And Eric knows this. And this is why Eric picked this coffee house.
Maybe. But we get away from the making out teenagers to get to Mr. Feeney asking for information from Mr. Turner.
Oh, yes. And I did clip this one. I love it.
So, Mr. Turner, Jonathan, Johnny, how goes it?
Fine. You know, I had dinner with Catherine last night.
Did you, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, man, what happened? Did you like her? Did she like you? Are you going to see each other again? Give me the skinny.
Curious, George?
I set you up. Now give.
No.
Hi, Guy.
Hi, Kat.
See you tonight.
I like her.
If you freeze at the very end, right after John says, I like her, you can see this joyful smile, this gleeful smile on Feeney's face that just shows you he is so happy at this result. Mr. Feeney's played matchmaker and he's so happy.
Yeah. Well, it's just that part of Feeney of he's more than just a teacher. He's more than just the principal. You know, he can be happy about two people finding love. He is a giant proponent of love and, you know, is even very much encouraging and gives advice to Cory. Just a matter of if he takes it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
Curious,
but also,
George?
I will say if as Alan comes to him, almost Home Improvement like, Feeney will give him advice for him and his wife. So,
yes, and it's always teaching, even though there's not a moment, not a second in this episode that takes place in a classroom. Mr. Feeney still manages to get a little bit of teaching in under the radar.
Always, yeah, and then Sean's kind of perplexed of, you're telling me you made out with Topanga in a poetry club.
Yeah.
Or poetry reading.
It's this brand new dating technology. Never mind Lord Byron and all of these other great poets that are famous the world and history throughout at crafting these verses and sonnets that would that would make people swoon and fall. Leave it to a 7th grade boy to be completely dumbfounded that poetry can actually stir something in a human being.
Well, and it's so funny because, again, Sean's trying to figure this out. Cory says, I think I could be a poet.
Oh, yes, and they write this fun poem together.
There once was a boy named Cory.
He now has an interesting story.
He learned about kissing.
And all he was missing, when he and Topanga made out.
Sean has very few things on his brain.
Sean, can you say summer school?
Yeah. Then Topanga walks by with a gaggle of girls.
Oh, yes. I love the term gaggle. It's fun.
Well, I don't know what else to refer to them as. And they walk away.
Yeah, because girls talk.
Apparently. Yeah, girls talk.
Girls
Clearly,
talk.
she was talking.
Yeah.
When are they gonna leave me alone?
I like that after all of this has happened, everything that's happened, gone down this episode, clearly, I'm assuming at this point, Eric's punishment has been lifted because Cory went out. Cory is now comfortable dating, I would assume. Eric is willingly sitting at the lunch table at school with Cory during his lunch period.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, it's a little too TV, but it's a nice little button.
I mean, it is a nice little button, and also allowing for Cory and Eric to be a little more, I guess you could say, on the mature side, and clearly Sean not being there yet.
Yes.
Let's call Sean a emotional late bloomer.
Yes, Sean may have hit puberty first, but emotionally he's a little bit behind.
Yeah. Well, we go to the tag, and it's more dramatic poetry reading.
Donovan just can't get away from those canned goods, can he?
Yeah. Well, it's just so funny because you're going through the crowd, and all of a sudden you pan to Turner and Miss Tompkins, and then you pan over to Alan and Amy Matthews, and then you pan over to Feeney and some random lady.
Is this his dentist?
Maybe. I mean, okay, let's just be real for a moment. We established pretty well in this, especially this season and next season, that Feeney's got game.
Oh, yeah.
It's just we don't see him in that light normally. So it's just so funny him just sitting there with a random lady, you know.
Yeah. And
there.
I like the expressions on Alan's and Feeney's face. Alan is just kind of curiously confused because this is Alan's world that Donovan's talking about. Alan's talking about the produce aisle or the canned goods aisle. This is Alan's world, and he's thinking this is sensual. Feeney, meanwhile, is just got this look of flustered pain. I'm thinking Feeney is wishing that Donovan would have some sort of rhyming scheme to his poetry that made sense to this old school educator.
Yeah, there's definitely a critique on the grammar.
Yeah, I don't think George can make it through this poet without giving him a grade and not a favorable one.
Well, and it's that whole thing of, well, maybe teenagers can see past this, but I can't. Although there is an English teacher and a history teacher in the back, definitely willing to see past it.
Oh, yeah. They really don't care what Donovan's got to say. They're a little too focused on each other.
Yeah, hashtag Nick Dick cut.
Who dat? Had a boy. Take a shower, son.
Do you want to give a quick hot take on what you thought about the whole makeout party?
So Cory clearly did not have a good time, and Topanga was trying to defend him. How do you felt they handled the whole didn't actually make out? Like, do you think they were mature about it? Like, what did you feel?
I mean, I think they were mature because, obviously you shouldn't do things that you're not ready for. But, again, with the double standard of what's expected at these things from boys and girls versus, what people feel comfortable with. But I think they handled it maturely by not doing what they were pressured into. Now, I think Topanga was trying to be mature in the Cory's a nice boy, but, it comes across as, I don't know what you want me to say.
I don't want you to say anything you don't want to say. You just had such a hot take from the other episode. I thought you may...
I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention as much this week.
Okay, so then the two questions are, what do you think about poetry?
It's boring.
From the way that the show describes it.
I mean, I don't mind poetry as long as it's interesting. Although I've never experienced poetry as a straight makeout session. Mm-hmm. Also, like, are poetry readings a thing still? Do people do them? I've never been to one. I know they do like open mic nights at coffee houses, but that's not necessarily just poetry. But I've never experienced anything like that. Also, my thing at the end is it's really creepy that everyone is at this poetry reading, because like, if this is like a makeout session poetry thing, why would you want your teachers there and your mom and dad and then your principal? Like, I would be hightailing it out of there if I was a teenager. Also, as an adult, probably would still be hightailing it out of there if I saw my kids there.
Now, the last question is, how would you feel if our oldest child is doing, like what word, psychological warfare on our younger child about going to a makeout party?
I would not like it. He would be in a lot of trouble for teasing his brother like that. Yeah. And Henry has some very strong opinions on that too.
Those are some good ones.
But as far as the psychological warfare is concerned, as the older child, I enjoy how Alan lulled him into a false sense of security to get him to admit to it. And I feel like the punishment was appropriate in, if he doesn't go out, you don't go out. It reminds me of 10 Things I Hate About You.
I'm too cute to stay home.
People, 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 people. Am I the only one who read the summer reading list?
Okay, so let's start with 7 Minutes in Heaven. As we know, it is a kissing game. You go into the closet. Apparently, it can be done either by using spin the bottle format, or you just pick names like they do in the show, or apparently you vote. Apparently, the first recorded incident of this originated from is in 1953, and saw it was out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Thanks a lot, Ohio.
Well, figures it comes out of Cincy. Sorry, good-looking people, if you're from Cincy, but yeah, well, you know.
Well, sorry that you live in Ohio. So essentially, I do have different references to 7 Minutes in Heaven. There is a movie called 7 Minutes in Heaven, but it has nothing to do with the actual game. Apparently, Teen Wolf mentions it. The best one outside of Boy Meets World that I've seen do 7 Minutes in Heaven would be from 13 Going on 30, where the main character goes into her closet waiting for a boy, and she's actually blindfolded to be kissed, but that's supposed to be a prank, not actually playing the game. Essentially, it's just one of those things I think has just been in pop culture as this is a game that you play. And again, I'm just going to say it. I think it's more talk than it is actually anything occurring. I will say I did learn that there is a web series called 7 Minutes in Heaven with Mike O'Brien, who used to be a writer for SNL, who would get actors and comedians and people that were guest starring on SNL to go into a closet and do a small interview. I didn't watch any of the clips, but I'm assuming it's funny because people look awkward, and when people are awkward, it's kind of funny. The term of making out or petting, as it was once referred to, is essentially, it was popularized in the 1920s as a youth cultural change, basically challenging the earlier Victorian era structure on sexuality with the rise and popularity of petting parties, as it's called. These parties' promiscuity became more commonplace, breaking from the traditions of monogamy or courtship. This expression of, with their exception of eventual marriage, is typically on college campuses where young people spend a great deal of unsupervised time in mixed company, essentially. So, essentially, the point in which I'm bringing that up is that there's definitely, after the Victorian era, a desire to, and probably after the whole Spanish influenza of young people wanting to interact with each other more intimately, more directly. So that's why we bring that up. And of course, I'm sure that over the course of all history, there were plenty of things that teenagers would do similar to as 7 Minutes in Heaven, interacting. And there are things like spin the bottle, which we aren't going to get into right now because that's not what we're here to talk about. What we are here to talk about is psychological warfare, use of propaganda against an enemy supported by such military, economic, and political measures as may be required. Such propaganda is generally intended to demoralize the enemy, to break his will to fight or resist, and sometimes to render him favorably disposed to one position. So let's just say that you have a younger brother going to his first makeout party, and you just start to tell him about, the clock, and knowing that the clock is ticking. That's a way basically to do psychological warfare. We also see this with communications media. Most commonly used in psychological warfare are the same as those used in civilian life. Radio, newspaper, motion pictures, videos, books, magazines. From a large part, output leaflets that are often widely used. World War II, for example, had a lot of leaflets that were put out. So essentially, all this is to say is that our good friend Eric was definitely using psychological warfare on his brother because he thought it was funny. Eric thought that it would be funny to see his brother squirm. He did, and then he laughed, not realizing that what he was actually doing was actually quite hurtful, quite mean, and clearly going to affect his relationship with his parents. He mentions about training wheels, which made me wonder, what's the deal with training wheels and why do we have them? So what I gather is that when we started driving cars, only adults could drive cars, clearly. So before that, people were just riding bikes everywhere because that was the best means of getting around. So after the cars came around, and now it was mostly a car lifestyle that we had, people needed to start putting bikes in the directions of children. So instead of it being a means of transportation, it became more of a toy, more of a luxury, those type of things. And thus kids had to learn how to ride the bike a lot earlier in life. So thus they had to start putting the training wheels on so that way kids wouldn't fall and hurt themselves because they were riding bikes a lot faster than they were beforehand and they weren't able to balance as well. And of course, if you've ever helped someone take off their training wheels, you know that it's very difficult to get used to balancing when you've had that support balancing you beforehand. For the record, if you don't fall when on getting off your training wheels, I'm going to call you a liar because everybody falls. It's just the way it goes. That's why it's best to do training wheels takeoffs in the grass because you will fall, you will hurt yourself, and it's okay. If you're a young person out there that never took off your training wheels, come talk to us because we'll help you out because those are the type of dads we are.
That's right.
I looked up poetry clubs in Philadelphia, Brett.
Oh.
And you want to know what I learned?
What'd you learn?
There's plenty of little poetry clubs in the Philadelphia area.
Is Donovan still appearing and writing about cling peaches?
That I don't know. But what I do know is that there's a place called Pen and Pencil. There's the Fedora Blues Club. I'm assuming they play more music, but, they still have poetry there as well. The Hop Sing Laundromat. Apparently that's in Chinatown. The West Oak Lane Jazz and Arts Festival. Time. That's it. World Cafe Live. The Tattooed Mom. Raven Lounge. Fergie's Pub. And Steel City Coffee House Brewery. Now, again, I will say, I'm not sure where specifically these things are and what they actually do in each of these clubs, but when you type in Poetry Club in help.com, that's what you find. And last but not least, let's talk cappuccinos, Brett. It's an Italian style of doing coffee. It's an espresso-based coffee drink. Is traditionally prepared with steamed milk foam. So the consumption of coffee in Europe was initially based on tradition of Ottoman preparation of the drink. I don't know what that means, but sure. Bringing up to a boil and mixing of the coffee and water together, sometimes adding sugar. The British seem to have started filtering and steeping coffee already in the second part of 18th century, and France and continental Europe followed suit by the 19th century. Coffee brewed in different devices designed for both home and public cafe. Adding milk to a coffee was mentioned by Europe already in the 1700s and sometimes advised. Cappuccino, as written today in Italian, is mentioned in the 19th century and is described as black coffee with a few drops of milk or cream. Modern Italian cappuccino evolved and developed into the following decades. Steamed milk atop is a later addition, and in the U.S., slight misunderstanding has led to the naming of it being this cap of milk foam, monk's head, although it originally had nothing to do with the name of the beverage. So the espresso machine was introduced at the beginning of the 20th century after Luigi Pezzera of Milan filed his first patent in 1901, although the first generation of the machine certainly did not make espressos the way we define it today. So essentially, like most things, we have a misunderstanding of what it actually was supposed to be and a misunderstanding now and differences of what it used to be compared to what it is today because life.
Stupid Americans.
Yes. The first small cup appeared in 1950s. Wow.
All
anyway,
right.
So those are your deep dives.
All right. So let's move on.
You know anything about the Odyssey? Huh? Did I say you could talk?
I didn't teach you that.
My friend Mr. Matthews will lead the discussion.
Do I have to draw you a picture?
What did you learn this week, Brett?
I was reminded that it's important to remember to not rush into anything you're not ready for, especially in matters of relationships. This episode specifically spoke to the physical side of a relationship, but really it expands to all parts of relationship. When you're a teenager, when you're in 7th grade, middle school period, there's a lot of pressure to just do what everyone else is doing, especially when it comes to things you would do in any relationship or with other human beings of opposing genders. It's important to remember not to rush in, especially if you're not ready yet. And if you don't know if you're ready or not, you're not. That's always a good rule of thumb. So that's something that I try to help my own children understand and know. And hopefully if they hear this, they would agree with me that that's something that I've helped to instill in them. What did you learn?
I think what I learned on the parent front this week is just allowing your kids to be where they are. And when they need to talk about it, let them. I think the one thing that bothers me about Amy and Alan's parenting this episode is the after the party and them both being like, let us know, tell us what's going on. And my whole thing is, when I was a teenager, when I really wanted to talk about something with my parents, I talked about it. And if I didn't want to talk to them about it, I didn't talk to them about it. And it wasn't like my parents that were ever like, don't tell us about these things. It was just some things naturally I would talk to them about, and other things I weren't. And I know eventually my boys are going to be teenagers, and they're either going to talk to me about these things or they're not going to talk to me about these things. And I know myself, I'm nosy, so I'm going to ask questions. But, you know, ultimately they knew something was bothering Cory. They didn't force anything out of him once they realized there was a problem. But once he opened his mouth, they knew exactly where the root cause of the problem was, and they acted upon it. Maybe the secondary lesson is remind your older child that they have an impact on the younger one.
Yeah, that should be a regular reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, they could cause
vast emotional damage.
Oh, that's a classic. I got to keep that one going.
Oh, yeah. Lenny will always be
I love
there.
that one.
So,
I'm right.
No, you're exactly right.
So am I done with my education? Can I go?
how would you grade Fear Strikes Out?
You know, I didn't think about it up until the point I got done saying what I learned, and I realized, oh, crap, I need a grade. And so the grade that's sticking out in my head right now is a B-. I think this was a really good episode, and I always wish there'd be more in the classroom, clearly. But I loved the dichotomy of what Cory's going through, what Mr. Turner's going through. I think I can't go to the A because I'm a dad and I'm icked out of the whole make out stuff. I get that it's important. And I think as a teenager, I probably would have rated this episode a lot higher because I was in this line. I was like, oh, this is so helpful. This is good. But as a parent, I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like how we're all treating this. And I also felt very uncomfortable that with the whole no lips thing, that Mr. Turner came up to him and said, hey man, if you ever need to talk, you can come talk to me. And I'm like, I don't want my kid talking to a teacher about whether or not they made out at a party. So yeah, it's just due to the content itself, I cannot give a higher grade than a B-.
Yeah.
I've sunk so low that even teachers feel sorry for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with the B-, for a lot of the same reasons. And if I were, when I first saw it, first run, I would have been right there with a high A grade. But looking at it through a dad's eyes, the concept of a makeout party, it doesn't frighten me, but it's not something I can get on board with, because with that being the sole purpose of a gathering, it cheapens an experience with other human beings for that to be the sole purpose. That's something that's a connection with another human being it shouldn't be rushed into. Yeah, I'm 40 good looking people. I'm going to have a different value set, and it's something that I adhere to, and I've shared with my children, and hopefully that some of my values have rubbed off on them. But those types of interactions and those type of connections with other human beings are designed to be deep and to last. And to host a gathering where you're just going to spend 7 minutes in a dark closet with someone you've maybe just met for the first time, and that's the whole point, that's not a concept I can get on board with. And to see Alan and Amy completely on board with the idea, it takes points off. I already discussed my whole reason for not liking what they did with Topanga in it, but I do like that. I do like the parenting in the end and how they handled Eric. I do like a lot of other things. I love the B story with John and with George. And I like that Eric did come through in the end. Even though it was a punishment, I like that he did come through. So B-.
Well, and one of the things I like about our grading system, I don't think there really is much of a system really to it, but other than the fact that we have to go with our gut feeling, and we cannot separate the fact that we are dads while we are watching this.
That's why it's Dads Meet World.
Right. Well, and that's why, like, when the wives come on, they go, well, what's the syllabus here? What's the spectrum? And it's like, it's your gut feeling. It's as you're watching this, as the person you are right now, how would you grade this? And, there's even a chance that you and I may go back through the first season at some point and go, did we have our grades wrong? Have we experienced stuff since that has changed and impacted the way we view this? And I think sometimes when it comes to critiquing things, people get way too much into I'm being super subjective whenever I rate these things. I was like, no, you're not. You can say it's subjective all you want, but you are bringing your experience, all the things you know, into everything you're watching. It impacts it. It always does. And that's why, we were talking earlier about the Mario movie, and you and I both said, hey, we had a great time. The music would pop up and it would get us excited, and, we were with our kids and just watched their excitement. And I think a lot of these people that come in all staunchly and saying, we're going to rip apart these movies and say what's wrong with them, you're missing the point of the movie. I don't know why you are considered a critic if you're only going to be negative about the whole thing, or think that it's, you know exactly what's going to happen at any given moment. Guess what? You know who's having a good time? The person that it's designed for.
Yep. And
that's my soapbox for the
week.
There
you go. I knew you had to have one in you tonight.
Gotta have at least one.
Yeah.
Well, I do believe I owe you a dad joke.
You do. Oh, and before we do we want to share our first email as a mailbag?
Well, I think we do.
Cory, Eric, guess what? I blew up another mailbox.
Good looking people, we received our first email. And this comes from Allie, and she says, I love the podcast. I've watched Boy Meets World since I was little, and I like how you approach it. If I had to rate it, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Well, Allie, I did respond, but here you are on air, so to speak, and we thank you very much for your listenership and for sending us the email. And like we promised, as we said, your shirt, we already corresponded, your shirt is in the mail, so to speak. Should arrive to you soon, so...
Yes,
we'll
be getting that to you as quickly as possible.
Yes, as quickly as the printers are able to get it out from dadsmeetworld.threadless.com.
Yes. A place you can find all sorts of good Dads Meet World stuff.
Yes. And so other good-looking people, we did have another email in here, but we'll share that next time.
Yeah, next time.
Yeah, good-looking people, you can send us emails at dadsmeetworld@gmail.com. And now Tyler has a dad joke for us.
Yes, since we're talking about bicycles, we might as well go ahead and mention this. Brett, why did the bicycle fall over?
Why did the bicycle fall over?
Because it was too tired.
But
sometimes my favorite is just watching you not react to the ones I do.
You know, one of these days we'll have to do a bonus episode where we just do like a dad joke off.
Oh, that'd be great.
Well, good looking people, that is an episode. So as always, we have been Dads Meet World. Duh.
Yes. Reach out to us on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, that Twitter, that thing's still around.
It is.
And seriously, send us your emails. We'll read them online. If you send us any reviews, we'll read those too.
That's right. And next time we'll be getting into Sister Teresa.
Ooh, and we will have a special guest for that episode.
Oh, all right. I'm finding out right along with you, good-looking people. So,
yes, you are.
So, until then, good-looking, I'll see ya.
Bye, good-looking.
You can find Dads Meet World on Facebook, Twitter, and probably a few other places just by searching for Dads Meet World. Dads Meet World is a production of Headfirst Studios. Headfirst Studios. Tell your story.
Hopefully all these little things of my brain fart get edited out. Probably not, because you're mean. Yeah, you want to hit us with that synopsis, Brett?
Again?
Did you already do it?
Yeah, I went through the whole thing.
Cory with the makeout. Did you say who wrote the episode?
Yeah, I even went down to the IMDb rating.
Oh. Wow, my brain is not working. So we start off in the cafeteria.
And I where did it go? Where did it go? Oh man, I lost it. Eric at this point has waged such a psychological warfare moment. Why am I getting so many notifications at 11 o'clock at night?
Hey. Get. Hey. Someone's demanding food. Yeah, he'll be fine.
Yeah, we're almost done, Cat.